Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. We are going to take a look at a figure that has definitely been out for a little while now, but it is a beauty. It's one that I really love because I'm a huge fan of the species itself, and this is the Papo Apatosaurus. This is a juvenile Apatosaurus, not an adult, and I would really love to see an adult version from Papo at some point. You would think if they released a juvenile, they would release an adult. However, the adult in comparison could be potentially pretty huge because this figure itself is also really quite huge. This wasn't a requested figure or anything. I just chose to put it up here for review because it's beautiful for one thing, but I also actually have a bootleg version that I thought looked really quite cool and definitely quite interesting. Looks pretty neat next to the Papo one actually. So we'll take a look at both of these. But first, we're going to look at the actual Papo as far as sculpt and detail goes, so let's get a closer look now. So if we start up here at the head, you can see the head sculpt looks really nice. The overall appearance of it honestly has a beautiful look to it. You can see the teeth inside the mouth there, but they're not perfectly painted. They are a little bit sloppy if my camera would focus on it. Having a tough time doing that for some reason. You can see that the gum paint and the inside of the mouth paint has run over onto the teeth a little bit, but the teeth are so small you honestly don't really notice it too well. The teeth on the upper jaw, however, do look really nice, and I would imagine that the detail inside the mouth probably looks great, but you just really can't see it so well. You can see the tongue a little bit in there, but the mouth is so small it's really kind of hard to pick up on anything inside the mouth, as it is very dark. If you look at the head sculpt from this side as well, you can see how beautiful it looks, and it's a nice brownish color, but they've included a really nice dark wash to help bring out all the detail and the cracks and crevices throughout the animal. That definitely helps to give this a very beautiful appearance. You can also see that the eye is very nicely glossed and painted. It shines really realistically as I do turn it here in the light, so that is also really nice to see. As you start to run along the neck, you can see just how large and immense the neck is on this Apatosaurus. There are lots of cracks and creases and crevices all throughout the neck sculpt of this, really giving you the feeling of how large this animal is. And if you look at the paint application, it is really beautifully done. It's kind of like a mixture of browns and blacks and dark browns, and then you get to like lighter browns the lower you go, to a very light coloration, almost like a linen type color on the underneath of the neck. Really looks fantastic the way they've painted this. Papo almost always does a great job continuously on making their dinosaurs look very realistic and giving them just a beautiful paint job. As you get back here into the front of the body, you can definitely take note of the shoulder blade really nicely protruding from the skin there. And you come down the front leg here, you can see all sorts of muscle tone, really beautifully present, showing you just how much pressure it's being put on the leg right there. As the dinosaur's taking a step, the foot looks fantastic as well, including the detail in the joints really everywhere. It looks great, really beautiful, and the muscle tone of the leg is incredibly impressive. And again, that's exactly something that you would see on an animal of this size. It's going to take a lot of muscles to hold up a body this big, so it's really brilliantly shown right there in the leg sculpt. As you start to come back into the midsection, you can see just how beautiful the skin texture is, really giving you the feel of this being a very large animal. You can see the spinal column is beautifully sculpted as you look up here on the top of the animal that runs out the length of the figure. Really nice movement being shown here with the way the skin is portrayed all over the place. You can see the skin stretching a little bit as that leg is pulling it back, but it really looks great even up here at the hip region, because the hip would be moving as well, and that shows the movement really nicely as far as the sculpt goes. You can see some skin folds and very nice loose skin in certain areas, but then the loose skin is also tightened up with the way that the body is moving as well. Beautiful musculature here in the thigh of the rear leg. As you run down the entire length of the leg, you can really see that very nicely. Beautifully sculpted foot as well, nicely painted nails, which some of the nails appear to be kind of similar in color to the foot, but then some of them appear to be a little darker. They do look really nice, and you can also take note of them kind of having a little bit of a gloss to give them a very realistic appearance as far as what a nail would look like. Nice skin folding going on right here behind the thigh in the beginning of the tail. Really beautiful skin texture as well. And again, you can see just so many different variations of the browns and everything, and the lighter browns. It really looks so realistic the way they've painted this. Nice creases and cracks that run out the entire length of this extremely long tail that comes out to a very nice fine point. And the tail looks great. It's so long and so windy and really, really beautiful. You can really see how nice they've done of a job as far as sculpting out the movement of the dinosaur's head. Look how beautiful they've done as far as portraying that curve in the neck. Really looks great. Such a cool appearance to have this looking back behind it. Maybe it's looking for its mom and it got a little too far ahead, or just other members of the herd, and that's why it's taking a second to look back and give a little yell to its family and let it know, hey, I'm up here. Maybe you should get up here with me. Something along those lines. But you can also see even on the underside just how beautiful the movement of that neck is really nicely portrayed in the sculpt. It looks honestly fantastic everywhere that you look at it when it comes to the very beautiful sculpt work on this Apatosaurus. The fine detailing looks great as you run down the body as well. Lots of creases once again all over the neck. There is the shoulder blade protruding from the skin once again. And then as we come down, you can see this leg looks fantastic, but this leg is also about to pick up, so you don't see quite as much musculature really being flexed on this side. You don't see it flexing near as much as you saw on the other side, which is really beautiful attention to detail on the part of Papo, because if it's not going to be putting any weight on this leg, you're not going to see the muscles bulging like you saw on the other side, so that's really nicely done. Again, you can pick up on the movement all over when it comes to the stomach region and the way the skin is reacting really, really nicely. The skin is bunching up here right behind this front leg and also bunching up here in the stomach back here as the leg is pushing into the body. The skin texture looks great all over the stomach as well. Nicely done hip bone. The spinal column on this side looks great also. Really beautiful musculature here on this rear leg, and the foot sculpt looks great over here as well on both of the feet. Really nice skin folding going on right here in this general area. Once again, pulling the skin, stretching it, and it's really nicely shown in the sculpt as well. And then we run out the length of the tail once again. You can see how beautiful the paint application is everywhere on this, and we end up out at this very nice long curved tail. But the paint app on this is so realistically done. It is honestly one of my favorite Papo figures as far as paint goes. And then you've got the bootleg version, which, again, if you're going to buy a bootleg, make sure you have purchased the original first, because the people that actually created the sculpts are always the ones that should get the money for the work they've done. More often than not, the bootleggers that make these will end up giving them some sort of a different paint scheme, and I do like to have figures that look so similar but are slightly different, because it helps to give them a very cool family appearance where every dinosaur doesn't look exactly the same. Kind of like how Rebor will release the same figure but in a few different paint schemes. It's sort of that same deal that I like to do when it comes to some bootlegs sometimes. However, you're not going to get the same sculpt and detail that you do see on your Papos. Like this one, you can see looks honestly pretty good for being a bootleg, but it's not as good as what you saw on the Papo. You can really see that here in the neck. It just doesn't look quite as good. However, it does still look fairly decent and much better than most bootlegs do. I definitely like the paint application on this, and I think that's what drew me in to pick this one up, is the red on the head and then this very cool looking striping. But one thing I feel like this is missing is a wash. I feel like if this had been given like a dark wash, it would probably look quite a bit better, honestly, than it does currently, because the paint application on this is fairly natural looking, and for the most part it looks like something that I could probably see an Apatosaurus being. It's very flashy, but actually really quite cool. But again, there's just no wash to it. There's no dark areas when it comes to the cracks and creases in the skin, and I feel like if it had that, it would really, really look a lot better. So I think I'm probably going to add that in and maybe give this a dark wash, and then I will come back later here at the end of the video and show you guys what it looks like with a dark wash. But again, the paint scheme of this does look pretty cool, and if we put it next to the actual Papo one, you can see that they definitely do look pretty neat next to each other and could make for a very cool family. The tails are actually in slightly different positions, but they do still look really, really neat together. And I think with the dark wash, this bootleg could look half decent. But again, I do want to remind you guys not to buy the bootleg over the original, especially if you're looking at just in general. Look at the detail and sculpt of the Papo, and then look at the bootleg. It's not even remotely in comparison, because the Papo one just looks far and away much better than what you're going to see on the bootleg version. So make sure that if you are looking to buy one of these, and only one, you buy the original. But if you do want to Another crazy member of the family, this bootleg version's not that bad. One thing that is pretty cool about the bootleg is that the actual paint application is pretty well done. It does look really quite natural and definitely fairly decent as far as the paint goes. Even over here on the other side, they've kind of done shading in certain areas and everything. So the nails are actually painted, even though they've put nails up here on the front foot that don't even exist. I don't know why they did that, but it still does look really quite cool as far as their paint application. For a bootleg, it's pretty decent. However, the original is clearly much, much better than that one. So let's go ahead and we'll get a size right now on this Apatosaurus. If we actually take the tail and stretch it out, because I've seen some with the tails bent like mine and some with the tail stretched, I think it just depends on if yours bows or not. You're looking at about 17 inches, almost 17 and a half actually, or about 14.5 centimeters for a length, which is quite huge. For a height, it's not that high, but you're looking at about 5 inches or 12.5 centimeters. So it's definitely got some good size to it. And to prove that for a size comparison, there is the Papo T-Rex next to the Papo Apatosaurus. And you can see that as far as a length, the Apatosaurus is just totally destroying the T-Rex, but the Rex itself is quite a bit taller than the Apatosaurus. Again, this is supposedly a juvenile, so that would explain the smaller size. I don't know if the term juvenile was used to justify the fact that it's kind of smaller for being an Apatosaurus, especially in comparison to the T-Rex, or what, but that would be my guess, because it still looks like it could potentially be an adult version. It's just a smaller size. However, you can get a good idea of the size of it next to the Papo Rex, and I will tell you that it is definitely a large figure. So the Papo Apatosaurus is absolutely beautiful, and it's just like the Papo Brachiosaurus when it comes to Papo really making beautiful sauropods. I'm kind of sad that they don't do it more often. I get that they're much larger figures and probably aren't picked up and purchased near as much as you see with like carnivores, but it's still so nice looking and really makes me sad that they don't release more sauropods more often. The sculpt on this is incredible as far as the detailing goes. There is just so much that's gone into this as far as the small minute details and the beautiful sculpt work, really portraying the movement really wonderfully, especially in the neck region like I had shown you guys. It's so fantastically sculpted to show exactly what's going on with the dinosaur. Other than the neck, though, there's not really too much going on in the movement of the dinosaur, as it's just kind of walking along and doesn't appear to be doing anything crazy or drastic, maybe just giving a quick look back like I had said previously and giving a yell to its family. I'm not sure exactly if that's the idea behind it, but that's kind of what I take away from it. Like I said, though, the sculpt looks fantastic. The paint application is just great for being a very dark coloration. They've included so many different tones of browns and blacks and everything, and lighter browns, that it really, really looks nice and very realistic. Beautifully realistic as far as what I would expect a very large sauropod to be. This is pretty much it right here. So if you are interested in picking up this Papo Apatosaurus, I 1000% recommend it. So I will find a link in the description where you can pick up this Papo Apatosaurus. I will also try to find a link where you can pick up this bootleg version if you are in fact interested, but make sure that you do pick up this version first if you are interested in buying the bootleg. So make sure you check the description, buy yourself an amazing Papo Apatosaurus, but before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I went ahead and gave this Apatosaurus a few different washes, some darker, some lighter, and I'm hoping that now maybe it looks a little better to you guys. You'll have to let me know in the comments whether it looked better before or after the washes are included. I think it honestly looks better now, in my opinion, but again, it might be different with you guys. You may think differently than me. To give you guys a little bit of a better idea as to what it looks like now with the washes included, and just how it has brought out some of the detail on the head and the body in general. I feel like it now looks quite a bit better with the washes included. Again, some areas I gave a dark wash, some areas I gave light washes, some areas I combined both. So it's really quite the mixture of everything. Again, you'll have to let me know in the comments what you guys think, if you liked it better this way or the previous way. Regardless, there's no turning back now, and me personally, I definitely like it a good bit more with the new washes included. So anyway, thanks guys for watching, and again, let me know in the comments which version you liked better, this or the previous non-washed version. And I will see you in the next video.